It's science.
What's up, everybody? It's your host, Justin, from CBG Radio. And we don't need no goddamn sponsors because we're back. We're talking about nutrition, we're talking about fitness, and anything else related. And here today, we are talking about why macros suck part 2. And this is more of, okay, what are some other systems out there that are better and compete with the if it fits your macro system that is currently available. And I would behoove myself if it wasn't the intrinsic diet. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And I'm not alone. I'm with my co-host, Justina.
Hello, hello. I am so ready to talk about this one.
Yes, we're back. So first off, in the last episode, we had a recap briefly about why macros suck. So we did talk about some of the benefits of calculating macros and an if it fits your macros approach. It's a popular approach that's emerged over the past 10 years for people. And it's based off scientific principles, which are sound, which is really good, but we find it not to be sustainable for people, for the long term specifically, and sometimes even for people in the short term. So 2/3 of people in the United States currently end up regaining all the weight back that they lost or more, right? This is terrible. You spent money, you spent time to be back in the same fucking place. It sucks. You don't want to be back in the same place. So you need to find a system and a coach that's going to help you find a sustainable solution to not only lose the weight, but keep the weight off. And macros, we feel, calculating macros in MyFitnessPal is not the best way. So I want to start off by introducing the concept of intuitive eating and our intrinsic diet. So it's not the easiest system to explain to people, right? Like, you're not going to understand exactly how to eat intuitive after this podcast is over and, you can go on your merry way. You're going to lose all your weight and be fine on your own. Doesn't work like that. Just like anything else, it takes practice. We strongly encourage a coach for this. There are a lot of coaches that do intuitive eating. We do it with our intrinsic diet. And to define intuitive eating, it's an approach to health and food that has nothing to do with diets, meal plans, discipline, willpower, at least in large quantities. And it teaches you how to get in touch with your body's cues about hunger and understanding really portion sizes that will leave you satisfied, satiated, and to trust your body around food in general. And from a nutrition professional perspective, intuitive eating is really a framework that helps keep nutrition interventions and behavior focused instead of restrictive or rule focused. So like having a specific set number of macros is rule focused, right? It's not something that's sustainable, especially with the barriers. You have to go to log everything in. This is the difference between that and macros and intuitive eating. And I mean, this is the way that we were born to eat, right? And it eventually allows people to, when they get a plate in front of them, doesn't matter what it is, like you're at a wedding and you order the steak, it comes. You know what those portion sizes are. You understand how much approximately protein is there, carbs is there, fat is there, right? And veggies, okay? And it really allows people to honor your hunger, the diet mentality, reject the diet mentality and respect your body. So this is really the idea behind it, and anyone can use this system. That's a great thing. Like, we do this with high-level athletes. Sam Quant just qualified for the CrossFit Games. He competes tomorrow. This podcast won't be out by that time, but he's competing tomorrow in the CrossFit Games, top 5. Saxon Panchik, Brooke Haas, and then we have 70-year-olds, 16-year-olds. I mean, you name it. Anyone can follow an intuitive-based diet, specifically the intrinsic diet, right? It's something that we've worked with so many different people, and we've helped so many different people achieve.
Right. So many different people with so many different goals, from having your performance athletes to people who want to gain weight to people who want to lose weight. Like, it's good for anyone.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, there are ways, right, to lose weight without counting macros. Like, you don't need to be in the app calculating macros to lose weight. Right?
Absolutely.
Right? So it's really about understanding those portion sizes of food that you're eating, right?
Right.
So, of course, you can't go out and eat whatever you want and not calculate your macros and lose weight, right? It's not going to work that way. But if you start to understand the portion sizes of food that you're eating and what is contained in those portion sizes in terms of protein, carbs, and fat, you can be your own MyFitnessPal is basically what we're saying.
Exactly. Of course, it's difficult to do that on your own at first, though, you know?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I mean, so is calculating macros. Like some people open the app, they're like, what the hell is this? Like, I don't even know, like, you know, how do I scan this? How do I, you know, it's something everybody learns. Everybody starts from a different place. You know what I mean? And people navigating through macros and not having, you know, 100 grams of fat left at the end of the day is hard too. It's a learning process. But I think you get more out of the intrinsic method or the intuitive method of eating than you do letting the app do all the work. If you put in the work originally, you can be the app. That's pretty powerful. And, you know, the big thing is you're in control of your shit. Like, if you're just following the app, you're not in control.
Right.
You're like, I'm not losing weight. Must be my macros. No, it's not your fucking macros. Like, you are not in control. You have to be in control of your own nutrition. And when you run things through an app and do some other things like that, especially you have to listen to part 1 of this, where we talk about how nutrition facts labels are consistently off and things like that. It's eye-opening. And you'll want to take control of your own nutrition and be your own calculator for this stuff intuitively, without thought. That's the goal. That's what intuitive eating is about. Yeah.
And that's honestly, in my opinion, again, one of the best benefits of eating intuitively is, like, you're in control. It's sustainable once you get the hang of it. And just like everything in life, it's all a learning process. But I swear, once you get that learning process done and it becomes a habit, it is the easiest thing and just second nature to you.
Right. And I mean, it has to be the most sustainable, right? Like, it is not a diet. Like, the word diet is gone. Like, that's the holy grail of losing weight, is to not feel like you're on a diet and to just be eating intuitively.
Right. And also eating intuitively, like, not only are you training your mind to actually recognize your portion sizes without calculating anything, you're also kind of physiologically changing your body to where once you have a certain amount of food every time you eat, let's say you eat 6 meals a day. In each of those 6 meals, you intuitively consume the same amount of proteins, carbs, and fats. Once you do that for a long time, your body gets used to it. So I think you already said, like, you listen to your hunger cues, you honor your hunger. Your body will tell you, once it's gotten used to the certain amount of portion sizes that you've been consuming through intuitive eating for a while, let's say a month or 2 or 3, it's just literally second nature even to your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've helped so many people do this. They tell me, like, I still eat the way that you taught me how to eat. I'm like, you taught yourself. Like, we help guide you through, but, like, you taught yourself, you put in the work to teach yourself how to do it. And that's just super liberating, you know, like, and it doesn't mean, like, that you can't have refeed meals or cheat meals, as people call them, or it doesn't mean you can't have highly palatable foods. You just have to know how to intrinsically incorporate those things over time. And that's where we feel the power of the intrinsic diet is, and eating intuitively, you know, for anyone out there, right? Mm-hmm. So, Justina, let's talk a little bit about how to do it. All right. Like I said, this isn't the easiest thing.
Right.
But because everyone's goals are different, right? Everyone's goals are different. Everyone's amount of food that they're going to need to eat to sustain their body is different, right? And it doesn't mean that there aren't a set of macros in place, right? Like at CBG for the intrinsic diet, our coaches take care of that. They take care of the macros. They take care of the total number of calories, and you're provided a blueprint. And that blueprint tells you how much, when, and what to eat. And that allows you to start understanding portion sizes of foods. And if you hit those portion sizes, you're going to hit the macros. You're going to hit the calories that we want you to hit for whatever your goals might be, right? And that's where, when you start understanding those portion sizes and make the connection between what the macros are, that you're your own MyFitnessPal, right?
Exactly. I will say though, I personally feel as if we were not doing this as nutrition coaches, right? And I met up randomly with one of my clients that I have, I would tell them it's extremely hard to learn to do this on your own. So I 100% recommend, if you ever want to try out intrinsic eating or intuitive eating, absolutely reach out to a nutrition coach around your area or remotely through online searches. Like, it's definitely difficult. Like you said, Justin, it's not an easy task to learn. So first step to how to do it, I would say, is find help so you can learn about the nutrition aspect or just any form of nutrition education.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And, it depends on your nutrition background. Like,
True.
if you're coming with no knowledge of nutrition at all, it's going to take you a little bit of time to start to understand the portion sizes, right? And how to utilize them to start learning how to eat intrinsically. But if you're coming from a background of macros and maybe some other diets that you've done, maybe zone or paleo, you understand flexible dieting versus non-flexible dieting, or even intermittent fasting, you understand a little, like, you can get this within a week or two. Honestly, yes. I've seen some people start to eat intuitively within a week or two, and the coach is there obviously to continue to guide them through and manipulate the portion size of food that they need to trend towards their goals and also keep them accountable. But they have it in just a few weeks. So it's not something that's too intimidating for people, but it is something that's going to take a little bit of work for you to start to understand,
And I would say it's more like, it's probably one of the least intimidating things regarding nutrition and weight loss or weight gain or any form of nutrition goal.
Right. Exactly. I agree completely. I mean, some of the metrics and things that we use to help people learn to how to eat intrinsically is comparing food items and amounts of food, like 18 grams of protein in the form of a chicken breast. We compare that to like a deck of cards, for example. Right? Yeah.
And I gotta say, I freaking love our photos. I'm obsessed with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Abby Berry is, she's one of our interns, and she is amazing. She makes these great photo pictures that helps people understand like what the different sizes of, like, whoa, what's 40 grams of rice equal to if it's put next to an iPhone, which we all have in our hand, right? Or like, a handful of nuts and seeds. What's that equal to in terms of the grams of fat? And we have a lot of different, pictures of these portion sizes that help people really track things without having to even weigh and measure if they don't want to. Like, if you truly didn't want to weigh and measure using the intrinsic diet or any type of intuitive eating principles out there, you could not weigh, track, measure anything and learn how to eat intuitively if you wanted.
Absolutely.
So in terms of the amounts of food and things like that, so typically 1 cup of veggies or a handful of veggies is about 100 grams.
Right.
And you should have 400 to 600 grams of veggies a day.
Exactly.
Depending on your body weight, right? And then if you're looking to also get to a certain protein count, right? Remember, about the size of your fist, right, is about 4 ounces of protein, which is about 24 grams. Okay. And then nuts and seeds for fats, a small handful of nuts and seeds, about 15 grams of fat. And then carbohydrates, typically a lot of carbohydrates, if you can imagine what the size of a cooked cup is, that's about 40 grams of carbohydrates. So, when you're out to eat or whenever, like, you can understand there's obviously a lot more that goes into different foods and what they portion out to be and the macros that they are. But sort of as a simple system, like, you can literally use your hand to understand different portion sizes of food in regards to protein, carbs, and fat, depending on what the food is. And that's what really the intrinsic diet is, right? Our macro cheat sheet tells you these things.
Exactly. And I've had a few clients actually, like, Friday afternoons, I would receive probably a few texts from different clients, and they'd be like, okay, so I have a Halloween party coming up. How do I try and follow my blueprint on a Saturday at a Halloween party with a ton of foods that are unhealthy or like a ton of carbs or fats. And what I usually say is I'm just like, do the same thing as you would do if you were at a restaurant or if you were home. Use your hands to try and figure out those portion sizes. And again, it doesn't have to be exact because we don't necessarily want anyone to stress over exact numbers or exact portions, but it should be relatively close in order for them to get to the goal that they want.
It should be absolutely close. And like even a little bit of variation is okay, right? Like
Exactly.
our body can adjust to our body fat set point with calories in, calories out. If, instead of having 40 grams of carbs, you had 45 grams of carbs. Like this isn't the problem. The big problem that people have is that they don't find something sustainable and then they go out on the weekends and they eat whatever the hell they want. This is really the problem. So speaking of that, how does someone, and we kind of spoke about it a little bit, but how does someone learn how to do this? Like, let's say when they don't have a coach, right? They're done. They quit working with us. How do you continue to eat like this without going out on the weekends and sabotaging, right, your diet? And this is where, like, obviously with anyone, it takes a little bit of discipline, regardless of what diet you're following. Doesn't really matter, to be able to understand the portion sizes that you need. And also, there are also ways that you can have refeed and cheat meals, right? You're not going to gain 5 pounds because you had one meal that was over the allotted amount of, portion sizes that you were supposed to have, right? So you can still reach your goals, right, by portioning out what you need. And if you go over, it's fine. You can plan accordingly for that to be a cheat meal. You know what I mean?
Right. And from what I've learned from working with a few clients and all of these clients being different from one another, a lot of them don't necessarily realize that refeed meals or cheat meals, they just think like, okay, it's my one day, I get to like reward myself. However, refeed meals are called refeed meals for a reason. It's actually helping our metabolism by giving us a refeed meal. Sorry, slipping on my words now.
No, you're good.
So refeed meals are actually somewhat beneficial to our metabolism and to our nutrition goals or physique goals or what have you.
Yeah, 2 reasons. I mean, one, refeed meals can give you a mental dieting break, which is really great for people, especially when they're doing 8 to 12 weeks of caloric restriction, right? Under most circumstances, people adjust to the portions of food and they're fine, as a caloric restrictive diet should be. Okay, you should be hungry like forever and ever when you're following a calorically restricted diet and trying to lose weight. Yeah, there are some times where hunger is a good response, but all in all, you shouldn't feel like hungry all the time.
Right.
And 2, small increases in the amount of calories that you're eating daily, let's say back to your baseline level of calories, right, can help speed up your metabolic rate to aid in further weight loss. Boom.
Right.
So that's the reason for refeed meals and cheat meals. So you can go about your day and have your regular portion sizes that you know to be true and eating intrinsically. And then you can go out maybe for dinner one night and have double the amount of calories that you typically would have. And the one way to do that is to simply not worry about the portion sizes or anything like that you're eating, but just eat what you feel is going to satisfy you. And that's it. You got your refeed meal and you actually did something really good for your physiology.
Right. And another thing about intuitive eating and intrinsic eating, it's more because I've been doing this actually ever since I've been discussing this with you. I've been intrinsically eating and you don't feel like it's a chore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it never feels like it's a hassle or a chore. It's just, like you said, you're going about your day. You're like, okay, this is what approximately of what I should have for my carbs, protein, and fat. And this is what I'm going to do.
That's it. And it becomes that easy. And it really can be easy for everyone. Like I said, We work with 70-year-olds. We work with 15-year-olds. It's a really powerful system. I do want to talk a little bit about DNA. So, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, when we developed the intrinsic diet and for people to start to eating intuitively to really eliminate the word diet, we did that because we thought it was the natural way for people to eat. That's what we were born to do. That's how we've been living for several years. And now we have so much food on the planet and there's so much crap going on that's kind of going out the window. As a result, so many different diets have emerged, and we wanted to go back to the basics and learn how to eat intrinsically to fit one's goals. So we developed the intrinsic diet. But something also really cool that comes out of eating intuitively and intrinsically and how we were built or designed to eat is also built in our DNA. And we've been lucky enough to actually have a sponsor for the podcast and through CBG that we work with, a partnership with Genopalette, and they actually study different genotypes and the prevalence of those genotypes of single nucleotide polymorphisms that tell you different information about how you should eat for your genes based on your DNA. So how you metabolize protein, how you metabolize carbs, and how you metabolize fat. Some different sensitivities, lactose, gluten, and then what vitamins and minerals you may not digest and absorb, as well as the average human population. And the cool thing about the DNA that we incorporate into people's diets is that it works with the intrinsic diet, right? Because it's all about trying to figure out, what your body needs sort of intuitively, which is built into your DNA. That's what your DNA is. And a really cool thing is that there are a lot of studies emerging now where people are incorporating DNA into their nutritional protocols, and they're actually finding that those diets are helping people thrive in terms of long-term adherence, as well as weight loss, as well as everything else. So people are more likely to follow a diet that is consistent with what their DNA is telling them to eat. That makes sense. Like sounds like, whoa, that's so crazy, but like it makes perfect sense.
No, it's pretty simple. Like I know because you're a scientist and we both went to school for sciences and specific sciences, but there's this thing called the central dogma and like Occam's razor. It's the most simplest explanation is most likely the explanation. And that's just how it is with DNA too and how we eat. Our DNA is programmed to process specific foods specific to us as an individual. And when we eat those foods that our DNA tells us to, that's when our body thrives. Now, a lot of the times people don't know what foods their DNA would prefer to properly work and have our body work at a physiological level. So that's when we kind of don't feel our best and our gut microbiota gets a little thrown off. And that's when we have certain digestive or absorptive disorders. However, let's say we get our DNA tested and we use Genopalette. Now we have the specifics. I'm like, okay, so I process proteins better than carbs. So this is how I'm going to eat now. And then that's when I physically feel better and also have a higher chance of getting to the goal that I want, either it be weight loss or muscle gain.
Right. Yeah, I've seen so many people I've worked with that are like really in tune with their nutrition. Even a lot of nutrition coaches sign up with us, right? Because they're trying to understand a little bit more about our system. They want to be better nutrition coaches. What better way than be a client, right? And they've signed up with us and they have a really good understanding. Like they can start eating intrinsically through our intrinsic diet or intuitively within a week. Right? And we get their Genopalette results back, their DNA results, and they're like a high protein metabolizer, right? Like they just their body metabolizes protein, really well and absorbs protein really well. That's what the DNA data tells us. And they're like, oh my God, that's why I fucking love protein. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's why.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. But some people out there, they're like, oh, carbs make you fat. I'm carb sensitive. And then their Genopalette comes back. It's like, no, you're not. You're not.
No,
carb
man,
sensitive.
you need carbs to lose weight.
That's it, bro. You need more carbs to lose weight because you metabolize them very well, along with the caloric restriction, of course. So,
right.
Yeah, this is the power behind eating intuitively, eating for your DNA with the intrinsic diet, understanding portion sizes, using those portion sizes and eliminating them over time to get you to a caloric restriction. No calculators, no apps, no bullshit. Just understanding, like, when there's a burrito, you make it at Chipotle, you know exactly the protein, carbs, and fat that are in there within some error. And you can start to eat autonomously, like
right.
You're driving a fucking Tesla with no hands. Right? Like, this is where you want to be with your nutrition. This is where you want to be with your diet.
Exactly.
That's
treat your body like a Tesla.
That's your power.
Yeah.
That's your power by understanding this and not utilizing other technologies out there that leave you drained and things over several years of trying to hit perfect macros and perfect grams. So.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the intrinsic diet. That's intuitive eating, which is the principle that we use that consistency breeds growth along with your DNA data. This is why macros suck. Part 2. And I know I'm going to get shit for this. I don't really care because I think the intrinsic method and eating more intuitively is better than macros. And that goes from the performance athlete all the way down to, you know, the struggling mom and dad out there that's trying to lose weight. So if you have any questions, you could shoot us a direct message. You can hit us up on consistencybreedsgrowth@gmail.com, or you can obviously go over to our Instagram at cbg_online_sports and contact us there as well. We look forward to your questions about our system, how to utilize it. We're helping more and more people each day, and we want to continue to grow our coaching business so that we can reach other people that want to hit their goals. So thank you very much for listening today. Part 2, we're out. Thanks, Justina, for coming on.
Oh, no problem at all.
See you next time.